are still lovely sunny days that are just made for a pleasure trip through the countryside. And if you also have a special car to do it in, then it's even more enjoyable. This Porsche 356 Cabriolet is one such special car because this is a very early model. The first series 356s were only built until 1955 and are most easily recognizable by the bend in the front windscreen. Among experts, they are known as the pre-A models. These cars were assembled from 1949 in Stuttgart, in primitive conditions by today's standards. The first models had 1,100cc engines with 40 horsepower. The output was increased bit by bit until it reached 70 horsepower in the 1500 Super. That made the lightweight 356 at barely 830 kilos a serious sports car which achieved countless victories, even against rivals with more horsepower. Incidentally, all pre-A models came into being on the premises of body manufacturers Reuter, where Porsche produced under a sublease until 1956. And here's how it all began. In 1948, the first Porsche, the #1, was on the road. The basic idea was still based on drafts by Professor Porsche from 1937. But not until after the war did they begin to implement the idea of a sports car based on the Beetle. The result was the Gmund Cabriolet, named after its place of origin. Next to it, an MG looked quite old in every sense of the word. With an unloaded weight of less than 600 kilos, an overhauled VW engine with 40 horsepower, arranged as a mid-engine, ensured impressive driving performances. In the 356, the mid-engine concept was scrapped in favor of the rear engine. In 1950, the first Stuttgart-produced car left the factory premises. Just 1 year later, there were already 500 of them. Most of the cars were exported. In this country, the luxury of a sports car was mostly unaffordable. But let's take a closer look at the early Porsche. The dashboard of this 1954 model is made of painted metal. A cigarette lighter and illuminated ashtray came as standard. For a supplement, there was a radio with attractive push buttons. A rev counter was, and still is, a matter of course in a sports car. The Porsche insignia, which decorates the horn, was not added until 1953. The interior of the 356 is extraordinarily cozy. You sit on comfortable leather seats, although they can't satisfy the modern passenger's demands for directional control. Sun visors made of tinted plexiglass were something found in finer cars of the time. Its day-to-day practicality is demonstrated by the comfortable access to the rear seat, but this is really only suitable for children. By folding down the backrest, you're offered a practical boot. The boot itself also contains the petrol tank along with the spare wheel, but even so, there's reasonable storage room left. The Porsche 356's good driving performance is provided by the typical Porsche flat engine, along with the aerodynamic shape and the low weight. It might be fundamentally based on the VW engine, but thanks to two carburetors, it can breathe a lot more freely. The 356 was available as a coupe, a convertible, and, extremely rarely, also as a speedster. The convertible's padded roof is protected by a tarpaulin. It can be easily folded over the interior, sealing perfectly and making the convertible absolutely weatherproof. Moreover, the convertible looks flawless even when closed, but of course it looks best open. The Porsche 356 is no problem at all to drive. You just get in, start it up and drive off, nothing more. In this respect, too, its relationship to the VW Beetle can't be denied. It can just do everything significantly better. With 70 horsepower, the 1500 Super is well powered even today. Thanks to an unloaded weight of 830 kilos, the power of the four-cylinder flat engine can be effectively converted to propulsion. The top speed of around 170 kilometers per hour made it a hunter on the empty post-war motorways. The gear changes are precise, although the travel is quite long. In terms of cornering, the 356 has a lot of oversteer, but that's exactly why the fans love it. Early models are as highly sought after as they are costly. This lovely piece from Hans Kleisel's collection was no bargain at the time or today. If that's too expensive, there are alternative cars based on the Beetle. For example, the ultra-fashionable Carmen Ghia Cabrio. It doesn't have Porsche on it, but the technology ultimately comes from the father of mass motorization, Ferdinand Porsche.